Estio buying to for I and oh. People don't respect what's easily available. Do you believe that kindness will earn you affection? Actually, it will render you invisible. Do you assume that being agreeable will gain you admiration? Instead, it will merely encourage others to exploit you. Cease being overly accommodating. In this reality, individuals don't treasure what comes without effort. They pursue what remains elusive. Therefore, if you desire respect, if you seek value, you must establish limits. Not barriers built from pride, but thresholds of self-dignity. For an existence dedicated to satisfying others represents a squandered life. Pay close attention now, as this will transform how others perceive you permanently. Have you observed how a flame consumes itself while attempting to illuminate others? Certain individuals in your circle resemble those who approach you solely during times of need, yet contribute nothing in reciprocation. You offer them your moments, your focus, your compassion, and ultimately find yourself depleted. They extract, they devour, they prosper, yet do they genuinely return the favor? Do they ever nurture you as you nurture them? The reality remains that not everyone merits your vitality. Picture awakening each morning with complete energy, similar to your phone's battery. Each interaction you participate in, every circumstance you encounter, each individual you meet consumes a portion of your power. When evening arrives, you feel either satisfied or utterly drained. The distinction lies in where and with whom you invest your energy. Certain individuals revitalize you. They inspire you. They deliver tranquility and happiness. However, others deplete you, not because they require assistance, but because they flourish by consuming others' energy without offering anything back. Consider that particular companion who contacts you exclusively when requiring something. They never inquire about your well-being, never wonder about your experiences, never truly listen when you communicate. Yet, when they need guidance, financial help, or emotional comfort, they appear immediately. And you, being the caring and generous soul you are, consistently respond. You provide, you console, you resolve their difficulties. Once they recover, they vanish until their next crisis. Does this resonate? Now envision a vessel of water. If you continuously pour water without refilling, eventually nothing remains. Your energy operates identically. You cannot persistently give to individuals who only consume. You cannot keep engaging with those who leave you hollow. Existence is too brief to waste on people who neither respect, value, nor reciprocate your energy. Observe the most accomplished and serene individuals around you. Do they entertain everyone? Do they permit anyone to squander their time, feelings, or mental harmony? Absolutely not. They select thoughtfully. They recognize that their energy holds value, that their time is precious. They invest in connections that sustain them, in discussions that motivate them, and in people who add significance to their existence. Consider a lion in its natural habitat. It doesn't pursue every insect that annoys it. It doesn't expend its strength on insignificant matters. It moves with dignity, with concentration, with intention. That's precisely how you should conduct yourself. Cease entertaining individuals who drain you. Stop participating in conversations that don't foster your development. Stop granting unlimited entry to those who don't merit your company. Some will argue, but shouldn't we assist others, show kindness? Naturally, compassion represents strength. Yet kindness without boundaries becomes self-sabotage. You must understand where to establish limits. A distinction exists between being kind and being used. A difference lies between being generous and being taken for granted. Most crucially, a difference separates loving people and allowing them to exhaust you. Imagine yourself as a tree. You possess roots that anchor you, branches reaching skyward, and fruit you share with those nearby. A thriving tree bears fruit, yet it also requires water, sunlight, and attention. If people only arrive to harvest your fruit but never nourish your roots, what occurs? Eventually, you'll wither and break. You'll cease flourishing. This explains why you must be conscious of where your energy flows. Examine your surroundings. Who are the individuals that make you feel uplifted and more complete after conversing with them? Who are those that leave you exhausted, frustrated, or worthless? The ones bringing you joy, keep them near. The ones draining you, care for them from afar. This isn't about selfishness. This concerns self-respect. If you don't safeguard your energy, nobody else will. If you don't treasure your own time, nobody else will. If you don't learn to refuse, people will assume your agreement is endless. So beginning today, select wisely. Show kindness, but don't become a doormat. Be generous, but don't become a martyr. Most importantly, defend your energy because not everyone deserves it. Have you contemplated why diamonds cost so much? It's not because they're the sole beautiful gems on earth. It's because they're scarce. Their rarity creates their worth. If diamonds were as abundant as stones on the ground, nobody would desire them. Nobody would make efforts to purchase them. Nobody would regard them as valuable. This represents the principle of scarcity. People only appreciate what is restricted, what is challenging to acquire, what isn't readily accessible. This principle applies not merely to objects, but also to individuals. Reflect on this. When you consistently agree, when you're constantly accessible, when you're perpetually initiating contact, people start taking you for granted. Not because they're malicious individuals, but because human psychology functions this way. The more obtainable something becomes, the less people appreciate it. The more they must work for something, the more they treasure it. If you're always providing your time, your attention, your presence without requiring people to earn it, they'll never truly appreciate you. Examine the most coveted luxury companies worldwide. They don't discount their products. They don't saturate the market with unlimited inventory. Instead, they launch limited collections. They make people wait. They establish exclusivity. Why? Because when something is scarce, people crave it more. They feel fortunate to possess it. They honor its value. Now implement this in your existence. When you're constantly available, always initiating plans, always responding immediately, people begin assuming you'll perpetually be there. They stop appreciating your presence. They stop valuing your time. They regard you as expendable because they don't feel compelled to earn your attention. Yet the moment you withdraw, the moment you become slightly less available, something transforms. Suddenly they notice your absence. Suddenly they wonder about you. Suddenly they start appreciating what they previously ignored. Examine the people in your existence. Have you noticed how those who are constantly giving, constantly caring, constantly attempting to please are often the ones who get overlooked? Conversely, those who maintain some mystery, those who don't surrender their time so readily, those who don't reveal everything about themselves immediately, these are the individuals who fascinate others. These are the people who possess influence. Consider the most respected celebrities, leaders, or influencers. Do they share every aspect of their lives? Do they make themselves accessible to everyone constantly? No. They preserve an element of intrigue. They choose what to reveal, and when they regulate access to their energy, because they aren't always available, people pursue them, admire them, respect them. This applies to relationships too. If you offer your love, your affection, your time too readily, the other person stops treasuring it. If you're consistently the one messaging first, always the one modifying your plans, always the one attempting to make things work, the equilibrium is disrupted. Yet, when you hold back slightly, when you create distance, when you allow them to approach you instead of always pursuing them, suddenly you become more appealing. Suddenly they start missing you. Suddenly they begin appreciating what they once disregarded. Even in friendships, the same principle applies. Have you observed that people who don't strive excessively to be liked are often the ones most respected? While those who overextend themselves trying to be the nicest, trying to satisfy everyone are frequently the ones who get ignored. Why? Because people respect what they must work for. They value what they cannot easily obtain. You must comprehend this. Your time, your energy, your presence, they all hold value. Yet if you distribute them too freely, people won't recognize their worth. The moment you begin controlling your availability, the moment you start establishing boundaries, the moment you stop chasing and let people come to you, everything will change. Observe nature. The rarest blossoms flourish on the tallest peaks. The most stunning vistas demand the longest journeys. The most precious treasures lie buried deep. Nothing valuable is easily accessible, and neither should you be. If you desire to be valued, respected, and wanted, stop making yourself too available. Stop offering yourself too readily. Be like the diamond. Be like the luxury brand. Be like the rare flower. because people only value what's scarce. When they recognize your worth, they'll never take you for granted again. A widespread misunderstanding exists that being friendly equals being weak, that being kind means being a pushover, yet this is far from accurate. Genuine friendliness is a strength, not a weakness. It requires bravery to be kind in a world that can be cruel. It demands confidence to be warm in a society where many people are distant. However, the error many make is confusing friendliness with being excessively accommodating, with lacking boundaries, with permitting others to exploit. Think about the sun and moon. The sun is warm. It gives life. It provides illumination. Yet it never pleads to be noticed. It doesn't chase the planets. It doesn't diminish its power to please others. Still, everything orbits around it. That's how true friendliness should be. Brilliant, confident, and steady. It shouldn't mean bending over backward to satisfy people who don't respect you. It shouldn't mean tolerating mistreatment simply because you don't want to disturb anyone. Picture a person who's always smiling, always accommodating, always agreeing to everything regardless of what's requested. Initially, people appreciate their kindness. Yet soon they begin expecting it. They assume this person will always adapt, always be available, always consent. Gradually, their kindness is no longer perceived as generosity, but as an expectation. They're taken for granted. When they finally refuse, when they finally establish a boundary, people react with surprise or even anger, not because they're malicious individuals, but because they became accustomed to this person being excessively nice. In their minds, that meant easy to manipulate. Now consider another person who's also friendly, but with different energy. They're warm, yet they have boundaries. They're kind, yet they don't tolerate disrespect. They assist, but only where it's warranted. They refuse when necessary without guilt. Because of this, people respect them. Their kindness is appreciated, not exploited. This represents the difference between being friendly and being weak. A strong person is friendly by choice, not from fear of rejection. They don't attempt to please everyone because they understand that not everyone merits their effort. They're kind, yet they don't tolerate nonsense. They offer help, but not at the expense of their own peace. Take the example of a teacher. A good teacher is friendly with students, encouraging, supportive. Yet the moment a student begins disrespecting them, the teacher establishes a boundary. If they allowed students to walk all over them, the entire class would lose respect. When they remain firm yet kind, they earn admiration. This balance is what true friendliness should resemble. Warm, but never weak. Look at nature. A river flows gently, giving life to everything around it, nourishing trees, animals, and lands. Yet if someone attempts to block it, it carves through stone, creating deep valleys, unstoppable in its power. This is how you should be. Flow with kindness. Yet don't let anything or anyone halt your self-respect. Many people think that to be liked, they must always agree, always adapt, always be available. Yet the truth is the most respected people are those who know their value. They treat others well, yet they also demand the same in return. They're polite, yet they don't tolerate disrespect. They're approachable, yet they don't let people misuse their time and energy. In relationships, this principle becomes even more crucial. If you're constantly the one who compromises, always the one who adjusts, always the one who gives without receiving, soon your kindness will be taken for granted. Yet when you set standards, when you communicate that your friendliness doesn't mean you're desperate for validation, people respect you more. They value your presence. They know that if they cross a line, consequences exist. Have you noticed how people admire those who are both kind and strong? The leaders who listen but also maintain their ground. The friends who support but also know when to step back. The colleagues who are helpful but don't allow themselves to be overburdened. These are the people who have mastered the art of being friendly without being weak. So when someone tries to test your limits next time, remember being nice is a choice, not an obligation. You don't owe anyone your time, your energy, or your peace simply because you're friendly. Your kindness is a gift, not a weakness. Those who mistake it for one will soon learn that a truly strong person may be warm, but they're never easily controlled. Most people struggle with boundaries not because they don't understand how to establish them, but because they feel guilty about doing so. They worry about hurting others, being perceived as selfish, or appearing unkind. Yet what they don't realize is that without boundaries, they're allowing their energy, time, and emotions to be controlled by everyone except themselves. Boundaries aren't walls. They're not meant to exclude people. They are screens that ensure only the right kind of energy enters your life. They protect your peace, your priorities, and your well-being. Think about a house. A house has doors, and those doors have locks. You don't leave your door wide open for anyone to enter at any time, do you? No. You decide who gets to enter, who stays outside, and who is permitted into the most private areas of your space. Boundaries work the same way. You decide who gets access to your time, your energy, and your emotions. You don't simply let anyone drain you whenever they choose. You set limits, not to push people away, but to protect what matters. Now, let's examine a real-life example. Imagine a friend who constantly calls you to vent about their problems, but never asks how you're doing. Every time you answer, it's the same situation. They unload their emotions and you listen patiently, offering advice, support, and comfort. Yet, when you need someone to talk to, they're nowhere to be found. You begin to feel drained, exhausted, maybe even resentful. Why? Because there's no balance. You have allowed them unlimited access to your emotional energy without setting any limits. The moment you decide to establish a boundary, perhaps by limiting the time you spend on these calls or by telling them you can't always be available, you might feel guilty. You might worry they'll be upset. Yet, what's the alternative? Continuing to let yourself be emotionally exhausted just to keep them happy. Boundaries aren't about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself. When you decline an invitation to an event you don't want to attend, you're saying yes to your own comfort. When you refuse to take on extra work that isn't yours, you're saying yes to your mental peace. When you walk away from a toxic relationship, you're saying yes to your self-respect. Many people struggle with boundaries in their workplace as well. A boss asks them to stay late repeatedly even though it's not in their job description. A colleague keeps transferring work onto them because they know they won't refuse. Instead of establishing a boundary, they comply out of fear, out of obligation, out of guilt. Yet the reality is the more you allow people to exploit your time, the more they will. The day you confidently say, "I can't stay late today," or "this isn't my responsibility," you're not being rude. You're respecting yourself. Ironically, when you respect yourself, others start respecting you too. Boundaries also apply to family. Just because someone is related to you doesn't mean they have a right to control your decisions, invade your personal space, or manipulate your emotions. Too often, people feel guilty for setting limits with family members, believing they owe them unlimited access. Yet love doesn't mean unlimited sacrifice. You can love your family and still say, "I need space." You can respect them and still say that topic is off limits. You can support them and still say, "I'm not responsible for fixing everything." Relationships flourish when there are clear, healthy boundaries. Without them, resentment builds, misunderstandings grow, and emotional exhaustion takes over. Yet when you communicate your limits honestly and firmly, you create space for mutual respect. The right people will understand. The wrong ones will be upset. That's acceptable because boundaries don't push away the right people. They filter out the wrong ones. One of the most powerful things to understand is that establishing boundaries doesn't require an explanation. You don't owe anyone a lengthy justification for protecting your time and energy. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. If someone makes you feel selfish for having limits, it only proves how much they benefited from you having none. Think about your phone's battery. If you kept running every app, every notification, every background process without restriction, your battery would drain quickly. That's why your phone has power, saving mode. It limits unnecessary usage to preserve energy for what truly matters. Your life should work the same way. Don't let every situation, every request, every demand drain you. Preserve your energy for what is important. The biggest challenge people face when establishing boundaries is fear. Fear of losing relationships, fear of disappointing others, fear of being misunderstood. Yet the truth is those who truly value you, you will respect your boundaries. Those who get angry when you say no were only using you for their benefit. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're a sign of self-respect. They're not barriers. They're bridges to a healthier, more balanced life. The sooner you learn to set them without guilt, the sooner you will reclaim control over your time, your energy, and your happiness. Silence possesses a power that most people fail to recognize. We exist in a world where everyone rushes to speak, to explain, to defend, and to prove themselves. Yet those who truly understand power know that silence is often the most powerful response. It demands attention, commands respect, and leaves a lasting impact. In many situations, what remains unspoken speaks louder than anything that could be verbalized. Think about the moments in your life when silence has made an impact. A prolonged stare when someone expected an argument, a moment of stillness in a heated conversation, a quiet departure instead of a dramatic confrontation. Silence carries weight because it makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to reflect, to question, to wonder. In that space of uncertainty, silence becomes a force stronger than any words. Consider a scenario in a heated argument. Two people are engaged in a war of words, each trying to outdo the other, to win, to make a point. Yet then one person stops. They say nothing. They simply listen or walk away. The other person is left speaking into the void. They expected a reaction, but they received none. Suddenly they're forced to deal with their own words, their own actions. Silence disarms people because it removes their ability to control you with their words. It shows them that you're not easily shaken, not easily provoked. It leaves them with their own thoughts, which is often more powerful than anything you could say. In relationships, silence is a test of true connection. A deep bond doesn't require constant conversation. Two people can sit in silence and still feel understood. They can communicate without words, through a glance, through a presence that speaks louder than sentences ever could. Yet, on the other hand, silence can also reveal distance. When words stop flowing between two people who once spoke endlessly, it's not always a lack of things to say. It's sometimes the presence of emotions too deep to be spoken. Silence in this form can be heartbreaking, yet it's honest. Think about powerful leaders, wise sages, and influential figures in history. The strongest among them aren't the ones who react to every insult, every challenge, every criticism. They're the ones who know when to stay silent. A king doesn't argue with a commoner. A lion doesn't roar at every barking dog. When you respond with silence, you're sending a message that you're not affected by the noise. Nothing frustrates those who seek to provoke you more than your silence. Even in battles, silence is a strategy. In chess, the most dangerous move is the one that isn't immediately obvious. In war, the strongest armies are those that move in silence, unseen and unheard until it's too late. The same applies to life. When you remain silent, people cannot predict your next move. They don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning. They become uneasy, uncertain, and that uncertainty gives you power. Silence is also a great teacher. When you stop talking and start listening, you learn more about the people around you. You notice the small details, the subtle shifts in tone, the things left unsaid. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not just for who they pretend to be. Those who speak too much often reveal their weaknesses, yet those who know when to remain silent hold the advantage. Silence can heal. In moments of grief, no words can truly comfort a heart in pain. Yet a silent presence, a hand held without words, a hug that says everything. These are the things that bring true comfort. Sometimes words are unnecessary. Sometimes they only dilute the depth of what is felt. Silence allows emotions to exist without force, without pressure, without the need for explanation. There's a reason why the most powerful moments in nature are silent. A sunrise doesn't announce its arrival with noise. It simply appears. In its silence, it captivates the world. A deep forest carries wisdom not in words, but in the rustling of leaves, in the stillness of ancient trees. The ocean, despite its vastness, doesn't need to explain itself. It simply exists, and its presence is enough. The same is true for you. You don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to justify your choices to those who don't understand them. You don't need to respond to every insult, every provocation, every misunderstanding. Sometimes silence is the best answer. It's not weakness. It's not avoidance. It's strength. It's control. It's the power of knowing that your energy is too valuable to waste on unnecessary words. People will try to pull you into their chaos, into their drama, into the endless cycle of words and arguments. Yet you must remember that silence is your weapon. It's your shield. It's your strategy. The moment you stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim your power. The moment you stop reacting to negativity, you free yourself from its influence. Not everyone deserves a response. Not every situation requires your voice. Sometimes your silence will teach them more than your words ever could. That is the ultimate power, knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the talking. Nothing is more painful than realizing that someone you care about doesn't appreciate you. That all the effort, the kindness, the support you have given has gone unnoticed. That the very people you prioritize wouldn't do the same for you. Yet the truth is people will take you for granted if you allow them to. It's not because they're bad, it's simply human nature. When something is always available, when someone is always agreeing, when love, attention, and effort come without conditions, people start assuming it will always be there. Think about the sunrise. It happens every day without fail. It's one of the most beautiful sights in the world. Yet how many people wake up just to admire it? How many people take a moment to appreciate its warmth? Very few. Why? Because they believe it will always be there. They assume that since it has never failed to appear, it never will. Yet imagine if one day the sun didn't rise, the world would be in chaos. People would suddenly realize its importance. They would long for its light, its warmth, its presence. The same applies to you. If you're always available, always forgiving, always putting others before yourself, people will assume that this is just who you are. That no matter what they do, you will always be there. They won't cherish you because they have never had to fear losing you. Look at your relationships. Whether it's with family, friends, or a partner, have you ever felt that someone doesn't value your presence, yet the moment you distance yourself, they start to notice you? It's not because they suddenly love you more. It's because they're afraid of losing what they once took for granted. This is a painful realization, yet it's also a powerful one. It shows you that people often only appreciate something when it's no longer easily available. You must teach people how to treat you. If you give endlessly without boundaries, you will exhaust yourself and still not be valued. If you always say yes, even when it inconveniences you, people will stop considering your feelings. If you forgive repeatedly without addressing the issue, they will assume there are no consequences for their actions. Imagine a well in a village. If the water is always overflowing, people will take as much as they want without thinking twice. They will waste it, spill it, take more than they need because they assume there's no end to it. Yet if one day that well begins to dry up, suddenly every drop becomes precious. People take only what they need. They respect it. They value it. They fear its absence. Be like that well. Give but not endlessly. Love but not without limits. Be kind but not at the cost of your own dignity. Think about those who always seem to have an abundance of people around them. It's not necessarily because they're the kindest or the most giving. It's often because they know their worth. They don't chase. They don't overextend themselves. They don't beg for love or appreciation. They carry themselves in a way that says, I am valuable, and if you don't see that, I won't force you to. Because of this, people are drawn to them. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your presence, your energy, your time, these are gifts. Like any valuable gift, they shouldn't be handed out carelessly. The people who genuinely care for you will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate your effort, and they will never make you feel like you're being taken for granted. Yet, those who don't respect your worth will only realize it when you stop giving them the opportunity to take advantage of it. When you pull away, when you start saying no, when you stop making excuses for their behavior, this isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. A person who knows their worth doesn't fear losing people. They understand that the right ones will stay and the wrong ones will leave. That's perfectly fine. You're not here to convince anyone to see your value. You're here to live fully, to love deeply, and to be appreciated, not used. If you ever feel like you're being taken for granted, step back, take time for yourself. Focus on those who truly appreciate you. Most importantly, never let your kindness become a weakness. Kindness is a strength, yet only when given to those who deserve it. You're not a limitless source of energy for people to drain. You're a person deserving of the same love, care, and respect that you give to others. Never forget this. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. The moment you stop allowing yourself to be taken for granted, you reclaim your power. When you do that, you will see that the right people will value you even more and the wrong ones will simply fade away. Let them. So today, make a choice. Let go of the version of yourself that no longer fits. Release the old identity that is holding you back. Step boldly into your new chapter without fear, without hesitation. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you are meant to live is your willingness to embrace change. Your ego will resist change. Ignore it. Change is uncomfortable. It unsettles us, challenges us, and demands that we step into the unknown. Yet, have you ever noticed how the moment you decide to change something in your life, a voice in your head immediately starts resisting? It tells you, no, this is too risky. What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? That voice is your ego. It's not your truth. It's simply a survival mechanism trained to keep you in the comfort of the familiar, even when the familiar is no longer serving you. The ego thrives on identity. It builds a fortress around who you think you are, who you have been, and who you believe you must continue to be. The moment you try to break free, it panics. It convinces you that you need to stay where you are because change feels like death to the ego. Yet the truth is, refusing to change is what keeps you stuck. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a swimming pool. The water is warm, inviting, and refreshing. Yet you hesitate. Your ego tells you, stay on the edge. It's safer here. What if the water is too deep? What if you sink? Yet you'll never experience the joy of swimming unless you take that first step. Unless you let yourself feel the discomfort of the cold splash before you adjust and start moving freely. This is how change works. At first, it feels unfamiliar. At first, your ego resists. Yet once you push through, you realize you were always meant to grow beyond where you are now. Think about a butterfly inside a cocoon. For a long time, it remains wrapped in that tight, enclosed space. Yet there comes a moment when it has to break free or it will never fly. Now imagine if the butterfly's ego told it, no, stay inside, it's comfortable here. Who do you think you are to fly? The butterfly would never spread its wings. It would never know its full potential. Yet so many of us listen to that voice inside us that says, stay the same. Don't grow, don't evolve, yet that voice isn't wisdom. It's fear disguised as logic. Have you noticed how children embrace change so effortlessly? They move from one phase of life to another without hesitation. They grow, they learn, they adapt. Yet as adults, we start to build walls. We develop attachments to who we think we are. I am this kind of person. I have always done things this way. This is just who I am. Yet who you were yesterday doesn't have to be who you are today. Growth is a choice, and every time you choose to evolve, your ego will try to pull you back. Ignore it. Now let's bring this to real life. Think about someone who has been in a toxic relationship for years. They know it's bad for them. They know they deserve better. Yet every time they try to leave, their ego whispers, but what if you never find someone else? What if this is the best you'll ever get? You have invested too much time to walk away now. So they stay trapped not by the relationship itself, but by the fear their ego creates. The moment they decide to ignore that voice and step into the unknown, they reclaim their power. Or imagine someone who has been in the same job for years, unhappy, uninspired, knowing deep down they're meant for more. Yet the moment they think about leaving, their ego resists. What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What will people think? So they stay in a place that drains them simply because their ego convinces them that safety is better than growth. Yet nothing great ever comes from staying the same. The moment they silence their ego and take the risk, doors begin to open that they never imagined possible. The ego doesn't want you to succeed. It wants you to stay the same. It fears change because change means uncertainty. Yet here's the irony. The only way to truly live is to step into uncertainty. Everything great that has ever happened in your life happened because you ignored your ego and took a chance. The friendships you built, the lessons you learned, the experiences that shaped you, all of them required you to step beyond the limits of who you thought you were. Think of an athlete training for a competition. Every muscle in their body burns. Their mind tells them, stop, this is too hard. Their ego whispers, you can't handle this. Yet they push through, and that's what makes them stronger. Growth is painful, yet stagnation is deadly. The discomfort of change is temporary, yet the regret of not changing lasts forever. So, what is your ego holding you back from right now? What dreams have you ignored because that voice inside you keeps telling you it's too risky, too hard, too uncertain? Whatever it is, recognize that voice for what it is, fear dressed up as reason, and then ignore it. Step forward anyway, because on the other side of your ego's resistance is the life you're meant to live. Pain is the universe's way of pushing you forward. Pain isn't your enemy. It's not a curse. It's not a punishment. Pain is the universe's way of shaking you, waking you up, and pushing you forward when you have stayed in the wrong place for too long. It's the hand that nudges you when you refuse to move, the storm that forces you to rebuild stronger, the fire that burns away what no longer serves you. Yet most people don't see pain this way. They resist it, fear it, and try to avoid it at all costs. They think pain means something is wrong, when in reality, pain is the greatest teacher life can offer. Think about a child learning to walk. The first few steps are wobbly. They fall, they scrape their knees, they cry, yet do they stop trying? No. The pain doesn't make them quit. It makes them adjust. They learn how to balance, how to step more carefully, how to trust their legs, and before they know it, they're running. Now imagine if a child decided, this hurts too much. I'm never trying again. They would never walk. Yet that's exactly what so many adults do. The moment life knocks them down, they say, this is too painful. I don't want to try again, so they stay stuck. Pain is life's way of showing you that something needs to change. It's not meant to break you. It's meant to mold you into a stronger version of yourself. When you touch something hot, you pull your hand away. Pain is teaching you to protect yourself. When you experience heartbreak, it's the universe's way of showing you that this person wasn't meant for you. When you lose a job, it's life's way of pushing you towards something greater, something you would never have reached if you had stayed where you were comfortable. Think about the story of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar must struggle, pushing and breaking through what feels like an impossible barrier. Yet without the struggle, its wings would never develop the strength to fly. If someone were to cut the cocoon open and free it from the struggle, the butterfly would never survive. Its wings would remain weak and it would never soar. The struggle is necessary. The pain of breaking free is what gives it power. Now look at your own life. Every time you've experienced deep pain, wasn't it also a turning point? Didn't it make you stronger, wiser, more aware of what you truly want? Pain strips away illusions. It forces you to see the truth. It pushes you to grow in ways comfort never could. The happiest, most successful people in the world aren't the ones who avoided pain. They're the ones who embraced it, learned from it, and used it as fuel to become something greater. Ever wondered why some people command respect effortlessly while others, despite their endless kindness, remain overlooked? The brutal truth is that excessive friendliness often breeds contempt, not admiration. Relationship was holding them back. They see the red flags they once ignored. They understand that this pain isn't the end. It's a new beginning. It's the universe's way of clearing space for something better. When that better thing arrives, a love that is deeper, more genuine, more aligned, they finally understand why they had to go through the pain first. Or consider someone who has faced failure. Maybe they started a business that collapsed, took a risk that didn't work out, or pursued a dream that seemed to fall apart. In the moment, failure feels like the worst thing in the world. Yet failure is just pain in disguise pushing you forward. The greatest inventors, leaders, and visionaries all faced failure, yet they didn't stop. They used their pain as a lesson, refined their approach, and kept moving forward. Because they did, they eventually succeeded in ways they never imagined. Pain is an alarm clock. It wakes you up when you have been asleep for too long. It shakes you when you have been ignoring your true path. It forces you to look at your life and ask, is this really where I want to be? When you stop running from pain and start listening to it, you realize that it isn't here to harm you. It's here to guide you. It's the universe's way of removing what isn't meant for you and preparing you for something greater. So when you feel pain next time, whether it's emotional, physical, or mental, don't see it as an enemy. See it as a message. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to move me toward? Because pain is never random. It always has a purpose. It's always leading you somewhere better, somewhere greater, somewhere you are always meant to be. If you embrace it rather than resist it, you will realize that pain was never here to destroy you. It was here to set you free. Your higher self is waiting for you to catch up. There exists a version of you that already is, one that is wiser, stronger, more confident, and unshaken by the world's distractions. This version of you doesn't second-guess decisions, doesn't settle for less than deserved, and doesn't cling to what's meant to be released. It's your higher self, the person you're destined to become, and right now that version of you is waiting for you to catch up. Most people live their lives looking backward. They cling to their old ways, their old fears, their old limitations, thinking that change is too difficult, too painful, too uncertain. Yet deep inside they know there's more for them. There's a voice inside that whispers, you're meant for greater things. Yet they silence it with excuses, I'm not ready. What if I fail? What if people judge me? So they remain stuck in the same patterns, repeating the same cycles, living a life that doesn't match who they're truly capable of becoming. Imagine a person standing on the shore staring at a boat that's ready to take them to a new land, a land where they can grow, thrive, and become the person they were always meant to be. The boat is waiting, the sea is calm, the journey is possible. Yet, instead of stepping forward, they hesitate. They keep looking back at the shore, afraid to leave what's familiar. They convince themselves that staying in a place that no longer serves them is safer than stepping into the unknown. Yet the truth is, the boat won't wait forever. Every moment they delay, they're delaying their own destiny. Your higher self is calling you forward. It's calling you to let go of the insecurities, the self-doubt, the need for external validation. It's calling you to break free from relationships that drain you, from environments that no longer inspire you, from habits that keep you small. Yet here's the truth, your higher self can't do the work for you. It can't pull you forward if you're still clinging to your past. You have to decide that you're ready to evolve. Think about the caterpillar that transforms into a butterfly. The caterpillar doesn't simply wake up one day and decide to fly. It undergoes a process of complete transformation. It builds a cocoon, a space where it must shed everything it once was to become something entirely new. If the caterpillar resists this change, it will never reach its full potential. It will remain grounded, crawling when it was meant to soar. Now look at your own life. Where are you resisting growth? Where are you making excuses instead of making progress? You already know what you need to do. You already know the habits you need to break, the relationships you need to walk away from, the risks you need to take. Your higher self isn't something you need to find. It's something you need to become. The only thing standing between who you are now and who you're meant to be is the willingness to change. Many people say they want a better life. They want success, love, peace, and happiness. Yet when the time comes to do the work, they hesitate. They wait for the perfect moment, not realizing that the perfect moment doesn't exist. The time to step into your higher self is now, not later, not when you feel ready, not when everything is easy, but now. Growth is uncomfortable, change is uncertain, yet staying the same is far more painful in the long run. Imagine looking back 5 years from now and realizing that you could have been so much further ahead if only you had trusted yourself. Imagine the regret of knowing that your higher self was always within reach, yet you were too afraid to step into it. The future version of you is watching, and it's not judging you for where you are. It's simply waiting. You have a choice. You can continue living by old patterns, holding on to an identity that no longer fits, or you can step into the person you're meant to be. You can keep playing small, or you can rise to your full potential. And no one can make this choice for you. The universe will give you signs. It will send you opportunities. It will push you toward growth. Yet ultimately, you must take the step forward. Your higher self isn't in the past. It's not in the comfort of what you've always known. It's in the unknown, in the risk, in the leap of faith. It's in the moments when you stop making excuses and start making decisions. It's in the discipline, the courage, the willingness to let go of what no longer serves you. When you finally choose to catch up to your higher self, everything will shift. You'll no longer seek validation